Hello, I'm McKenna.
I'm Hayden. I'm Reese.
And we're from the Santa Barbara Middle School Teen Press here with...
My name is ZACH RAGO.
It's nice to meet you, Zach.
Nice to meet you guys.
Okay. Okay, so we saw Chasing Coral last night. It was very inspiring. For those who haven't seen the film yet, will you briefly explain what it is about?
Yeah, so the film's really, a lot of people think it's an environmental doc, but I like to think of it as a story of a team of divers, scientists, and filmmakers who go out on a huge adventure to try and expose how our oceans are changing to the world and do so in a powerful way.
So, the theme of this year's film festival is the new normal. How do you think that Chasing Coral contributes to this theme?
Yeah, so I think that our ultimate goal with this film is to expose people to something that they might not get, especially because the ocean's largely out of sight, out of mind. So by exposing some of the issues that are happening, we're trying to influence people to cultivate a new normal. We want to see those fundamental changes in how people think and how society works, and hopefully take our steps forward to having a more sustainable and thoughtful world. And it might not happen overnight, but it's the little steps in pushing through your failures and through your peaks and valleys, and science usually wins.
Okay. So, we saw that you had many frustrating times on your quest of chasing coral. What continually led you to keep persisting?
So my frustration's always personal. I have a really deep connection with the marine world, and so to this day I have hard days, like if I have to watch the movie, and some of those shots are really hard for me to get through without being really emotional, because it was a really hard time for me, and because I care so much about that. And I worked my entire life to get to the Great Barrier Reef, and I ended up at the Great Barrier Reef to watch my dream die in front of my eyes, and it was really hard. But at the same time, it's one of these things where in the back of my mind I know that I'm doing this for something that's bigger than just my own selfish wants and desires that I've had as a kid. I've realized that we were the only team in the world that had an opportunity to catch this and to expose that to the public and to you guys, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. And that's what kept me going in the back of my mind, was this is bigger than me. I have an opportunity to share something that's so meaningful to me. And while it's bad, I get to share that with the world, which was, it's what kept, I think, all of us going.
Thank you.
So, you believe that experience is the best teacher. Can you tell us about a major life experience that has taught you an important lesson?
Ooh, I'm going to stick with the movie, I think. So I worked on coral bleaching as my senior thesis in college. So I knew all of the numbers, and I knew all of the facts, and I knew that this was going to happen, and I had studied it for years. And I think my biggest thing was, even though I knew that this was happening, I knew it was important, and I knew how bad it was, getting in the water and being there to see it and experience it really taught me that seeing is believing, and that as powerful as science is, there's nothing like the experience. There's nothing like seeing it with your own eyes and having to deal with that and cope with that. And I think that changed me a lot, because had you asked me 4 years ago what I thought about the arts, I'm a scientist and I'm not good at art. And I would have told you do art for art's sake. And I regret that now, because there is nothing more powerful than collaboration between entities. So scientists and artists coming together is one of the most powerful tools that we have on the planet, I think. And I truly believe that a photo and a piece of art can say 1,000, if not a million words. And every now and then I think a photo can change the world.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your Children Ocean program and where you want to go with it?
So I've actually been running a program here in Colorado called Teens for Oceans for about 5 years now, and my goal has been to engage youth with really just science, but through the lens of an ocean, through my own story and through my love for it. But not to push them into the ocean world. If they're interested in it, absolutely. But for me, I see it as a Socratic approach. I want to engage people like yourselves with what you want to know. To sit down and not have anything that we're going to find out that day, but to just open the door and give you guys the tools to find your curiosity and then to run with that, to let you guys find out what you want to know, what you're passionate about, because good passion leads to good work, and good work can change the world.
You spent many of your childhood summers under the waves of the Pacific. How has that influenced your passion for the coral reef?
Yeah, so my father took high school students to Hawaii every summer, and so when I was just a little kid, I would basically shadow the older kids and go tide pooling and go snorkeling, and I was definitely one of those kids that needed my alone time and was out in nature and was definitely nerding out in the bookworm, trying to find out as much as I could about biology. And once I got I had, my backyard in Boulder, Colorado the entire time. And when I got this brand new novel area of the underwater world, and there's just so much life, it's almost unbelievable underwater, that I was just hooked immediately. It was just this alien world that now I had my just expansiveness that I could go explore, never-ending exploration. You could never explore the entire ocean, and I was hooked. And I stuck with it my entire life somehow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you rotate around?
If you could travel back in time to do one thing that helps the environment, what would you do?
Oh my God, no one's ever asked me that. You gotta give me a moment. I would go back to possibly 2 different places. And I think that it would be to meet 2 people, but I think it would be to warn them of what was coming. I feel like I'm gonna get choked up answering that. I would go back and talk with Jacques Cousteau and tell him how bad things could get. And then Carl Sagan as well. I think I would just go back and warn the scientists that were absolutely fantastic communicators before our generation, and tell them that what they're doing was so important and that they need to do more and do it more effectively, as effective as they were, but to work harder and harder and harder. Particularly with Jacques, I think, because he opened the door for the ocean for people. No one knew about it back then, and he was this idolized icon that just allowed people to realize, wow, this is out there. And I think had he known more, I think we could have done a little bit more good. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I've never been asked that, so
Thank you. You talked about changing the way people think about the ocean rather than telling them what not to do. Will you give us an example of what this looks like?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we do is there's 31 cities in the United States now that have pledged to go 100% renewable. So one of the biggest things that you can do, which isn't a sacrifice, is get involved with your local communities. It's go and try and talk with your local administration, your local decision makers to push things forward. One of the scariest statistics is 58% of Americans believe in climate change. Less than 3% are actively doing something about it within politics. So that's a huge discrepancy, right? It doesn't reflect our beliefs, and that's pretty scary. So just getting involved, and the most important thing is you 3 are sitting here having this conversation with me. I'm sure you have a school filled with hundreds of other peers and parents and teachers sharing these stories and sharing this information is equally important. So those are the really big things. That's how we fundamentally change ideas, is because you all have families, you all have friends who care about you, right? You have people that love you. And if you are passionate about something, those people around you that have care and love for you are also going to jump on board with that. They care about your opinion, and they care about what you think and what you know. And for you guys, and what I feel is the youth, is too often do we get stuck in these bubbles of feeling like everyone around you is an authoritative figure. You guys know what you know, and believe that you know it. Believe that you have a voice. Feel empowered to stand up and say, this isn't right. You can do more. And you guys have that power.
Okay, one more question. If you could give us one homework assignment, what would it be?
I think the homework assignment is going to be share the story, for sure. But I think it would be to engage your peers more. So my homework would be to, utilize art and utilize your peers. So everyone has different aspirations, whether you're aspiring to be a scientist or aspiring to be an artist. collaborate. Start something at your local schools where you take your scientists, or even find your local university. Go to the University of Santa Barbara, pick out a scientist, find what they're working on, and then utilize your school groups to go out and share that story in a meaningful way through media or just through storytelling, because those are what's important. Scientists are really, really bad at communicating what we do. We're really good at what we do, but we're atrocious at communicating it, and that's the biggest conundrum that we have. So having folks that are willing to come in and share those stories with a more personal connection and in a way that can engage the public's amazingly important. And so doing something like that, even if it's a small thing, that would be my homework.
Thank you so much for talking.
Thank you guys. It's awesome questions.